Okay, well, thank you everybody for coming back so promptly. We're going to continue with our second session of this morning. And for the second session, we're gonna have two presentations. So the first presentation, we're gonna hear from J.D. Tucker from the Munsee, Delaware Nation. And we're gonna hear from Srinivas Bhupati, who is an undergraduate student here at Princeton. He is a computer science major, he's a linguistics minor. I'm gonna let them introduce themselves in a bit, but I just wanted to kind of contextualize a little bit the project. So they're working towards a digital Munsee dictionary, and this is a project that they started this summer during their Lunaape language camp. We're very lucky, very thankful that Srinivas was able to join us this summer as a Syrian intern. So the university has a unit called Process. It's a community engagement unit on campus, and it allows undergraduate students to work with community members in projects that are helpful for the community. And so this is a wonderful project that we're seeing kind of coming together from, where we see collaboration between a community member and one of our students at Princeton. And so I'm very, very happy to see them working together and working in this wonderful project. And so I'm gonna pass it along to them to talk about give us some updates about how the project has been evolving since the summer. And then after that, we're gonna open it up for a few minutes for questions after that. And then we're gonna have Christine giving us a presentation about some of the video skits that we produced also during the Lunaape language camp this summer, and which she has been able to use for her teaching of the Munsee language. And so that's all I want to say for now, and I'm gonna pass it on to you. Thank you, Chanushik.
Loma, Nishi Wemo Wenalayo Tori Quai Kishku, Indishinzi Jamish, Ngakaya Wenjayo Nalahi Shuknuikia Zikurinto, Ngola Nitlin Dilanapawi Wak Joshua Nakwi, Nawalotamin Wandak Takwach, Nimbokwi Skoli now, Leila Wo, Soan Wakanahen, Indaloke Quai Nachpi, Pinaway, Linda Mahikano, Mahanin Jos. Nakashin Thou Shrinikat.
Kringanalomwa Nidashinzi Shrinikat. Kringanalomwa Nidashinzi Shrinikat. Ni Nonjiai, Florida. My name is hello everybody. My name is Shrinikat. I'm an undergraduate student here at Princeton University. I'm working in computer science and linguistics. Professor has given me a great introduction, but just to give it summarily, I was involved with the question of how do we create resources for the Lunaape language over the summer. And I presented after that summer what I was working on at the Lunaape language camp. And then at the camp, I met Jamie, and we were talking about what would a good implementation look like? How would it address the problems that we had discussed during the camp of digital ownership, of community input into the resources that we would be creating. And we worked on both the implementation side of things of how would we create a better resource, and the more philosophical questions of like, what is the better implementation over the weeks from the summer, so maybe past 2-3 months. So I wanted to talk about that today, but first Jamie will present.
Yeah, so personally, my history as a language learner, it's been a very, for the first part, like I never grew up with the language. Our family, my grandmother never had the language. She had some Ojibwe, but it was kind of like a solo effort for me. I lived in Toronto for all this time, so I was away from community. So it was a lot of whatever I could find on the internet, and the kind of self-teaching. And then when the language classes started on Munsee, I was attending them with Karen and Ian. And then so when the pandemic happened, it was online classes with Karen Moscow. And then since her passing, it's been kind of back to working on my own and a lot of thinking. And part of that is like part of it is I felt like I didn't have the opportunities when I was younger to kind of engage with the language in the way that now as an older person that I would have wanted to. So it becomes now that I'm I'm 40 now, like I'm becoming part of the teaching generation. So it's like, what can I be doing to facilitate the next generation? And so my skill set is programming. Like I work in video games, but I'm a programmer. And so it's like, how can I use that as a resource for our community? And so coming to the language camp, I was able to be connected with Srinaket, and we have started this project. And just this project is something I have been thinking about for years. And the problem was I was thinking and I wasn't doing. And when we lost Karen last year, a little over a year ago, it was about it was following a year starting in 2021 where I lost several members of my family, my mother, my grandmother, my aunt, my cousin, all just like successively. And then in 2022, we lost Mark Peters, our historian, and then Karen. And so it was it was kind of a now or never. And so being able to start that work, it's very important that I could share my skills to then, to create something useful for people. So now we're having this opportunity, this is what we're going with. And so my having my own, not being in the language, learning the language through speaking, which is how it's supposed to be taught. It was a lot of using the dictionary. It was a lot of thinking in English. And so it was thinking like what you want to say in Lunaape. First, you think of an English word that is the closest meaning. And so there's a lot of that going on, and like that's not a great way to learn a language that has nothing to do with English, where that relationship is kind of like shoehorned in, because like in Lenape language, like it is all about relationships. Someone asked me once at the language camp, like what my favorite Lenape word is, and I was saying, like I really like the word kishalmokhweng, which is like the word for the creator. And the word in English, it's very passive. It's like, it has a very dry meaning, the creator. But in Lenape, you break it down and there's a relationship. It's kishalmokhweng, where it's, finished. My interpretation is like finished, the one who finished creating us with his mind. And so there's a direction, there's a relationship between us and the creator. And so there's so many words, so many things in Lenape you can't say without the relationship to what you're saying. So it's not just isolated words. So as I'll just give a little demonstration. So with the word red for red mark. So there's kind of you start seeing in the dictionary, you start seeing like all the words next to each other. So on the Lenape side, you start seeing patterns. So then you start seeing like you have mach and mache and machso, and then you see that there's a root to the word, and you see that they're related, and then there's another part that is different, and like why is that different? And so the difference, here simply is it's a way to say something animate is red versus something inanimate is red. And then you start seeing other patterns with other words. So like makhalal and makhalat. So then there's another morpheme added. So al is like the word rot. So red rot is rust. So it's like you're adding to it. So as soon as you start understanding Lenape language, you start being able to make these connections, and you can start. It's not attached to the English concept of rust anymore. You're starting to understand how it works within itself. And so we, continuing this thing on color, we have words. We have in traditional learning, we have what, the kind of symbolism of color of black and red. This is some big house teaching of black and red, how that represents, and it's used in a lot of art and ceremony. But then if you like look into the language, you see other words like mak ahe, which means like a lot, like a tell a fib, which it means he throws red. So that's interesting how now we're learning things about culture and we're learning things about metaphor by being able to access the language. And so yes, and then we have like a liar, is a red bleep, or he's a, so it's just like there's kind of things you're now able to understand about the language as you're able to learn the breakdown of it. And so the purpose of this online dictionary is not just a list of words and a list of English words. It's being able to connect these words together in all various different ways so that you're able to kind of circularly navigate these words and being able to make those connections yourself, or like be able to have some kind of direction to how they're going. So then,
So just briefly, I want to go back to this slide. We talk a lot about increasingly decolonizing knowledge, of decolonizing history, decolonizing the arts, and what it means in this field, at least my idea is, how do you present a view of language which is not English-centric? In English, I'm hyper over generalizing here, but a lot of words are not capable of being broken down. You can't have cow or squirrel or like table being broken down into stuff. You can't have table and whole. But yeah, a lot of these words, you can see pretty much every word in this page has like 3, 4, 5 different parts that are working together to bring together a whole word. And if you have that being memorized as one word, well, this is impossible now because you have to memorize every single combination of letters as its own thing. But now if you know, oh, this part of this word means this, this part of this word means this, now you can have productive word formation. You can make new words and you can understand what is the anatomy of each word that you're coming across, instead of just saying, oh, wow, we've got a word for red string, we've got a word for black string, we've got a word, but that's not really the way to think about it. What in English, that's how you're trained to think. You're trained to think every concept as its own word, and you have to just memorize that word, simplifying, of course. So currently we have 4 phases, that's our idea. Right now we're creating a database, and we can hopefully show a little bit what it looks like later. So we wanted to prepare a proper format. So if you're entering a word, you know exactly how to enter that word or a root, and you can enter it in a way that is consistent all the time. So we created like a 4-page document that's like, here's how you do it, here's how you add it. It's actually less complicated than it sounds, but we wanted to cover all the edge cases. Oh, if you have this word, how do you add that? How does the dictionary deal with that? So we have a format for that. We input 300 words into the database right now. The main bottleneck that we're thinking about is, if we're going ahead with this, how do we input all the words? Because we know the format, we know how to do it. We even have some ways of processing it, which we'll talk about, but just typing it all up is where we're likely to be stemmed. Taking input from everyone here, and particularly our language teachers, to improve the format, to make it something that can be embraced by everyone. I was talking about this with Jamie, and I think I mentioned it before, but my goal is to become obsolete, right? I don't want, I think the ideal circumstances where is created, designed, modified, everything by the community. And so I want to get to a place where I'm unnecessary. I'm just an external appendage. And then finally, digitize Mirror's dictionary. So the reason why we're thinking about a dictionary in the first place is we're hoping that it is a central resource. Because right now you have Mirror's dictionary, you have Mirror's notes, which Professor Beckwith is very stolidly working through and trying to go through that. We have some 16th, 17th century dictionaries. We have some scholarship, and we have that has like lists of bird words. We have some new words that Kristen has made, and we're trying to essentially say, how do we get this all into one place instead of having it be very distributed? So the goal is, if you have, let's say, an audio file, where do I put that? It's got like some sentences, put that in the dictionary. If you've got a new word for computer or for this concept, where do I put that? Put it in the dictionary. So it becomes this central hub. And this is very ambitious. This might be a few years down the line, but a lot of dictionaries have rhyming dictionaries, right? So if you're trying to create poetry, if you're trying to create art, how do I find a rhyme for this word? Check the dictionary. That is down the line. I'm not gonna say that we're here there right now, but that is the hope, that you can create the central source. And then that makes resource creation, that makes writing art and poetry and translations that much easier. Because obviously, no, you're not gonna put a dictionary in front of a 5-year-old and say, learn. That's not the goal of this, but the goal of this is to use that so that it makes every other step of the process of learning and teaching the language that much faster and easier. So the phase 2 is word breakdowns. We'll talk about this with a program that we have, but essentially, if you have a word like mahkasanikan, that's brick house. Well, if you just remember just the word for brick house, again, going back to that point, that's gonna be very difficult. But if you know it's mahkasan, brick plus house, that's easier. And then if you're like, okay, what mahkasan, what does that mean? You can then click that link, it'll take you to that page, and then say, oh, this is mahki plus asan, or mahka plus asan. So to go to a word and to know its breakdown is something that we really want. And that is a capability that the Omera dictionary doesn't have currently, because you see a word and it's just a word. You don't know its parts. But if you see a word and you know its parts, that's major. So we've actually been working on like a morphological parse, basically a thing that if you say, this is the word, this is an animate noun, it'll tell you, oh, okay, what I'm predicting is this word is like made up of these parts. We'll show a demo of it later. But if you have 10,000 words that you're like, here are 10,000 words, tell me what all these words are made of, you can have the computer tell you that. And then obviously you don't want the computer to just dictate that. So we put a question mark next to all of it, and then a human will come and say, is this right? Is this accurate? The goal of that is so that we have this breakdown for the words, so that we know what the words mean. Another thing that we would like is inflected form. So a lot of the forms in the dictionary say, this is what the word is, and then this is what it is in first person. Obviously, if you want to be thinking in Munsee, you don't want to consult the dictionary on everything. You want to be able to speak it, but we think that this is a good resource to have in the future, to have some inflected forms for the words in different contexts. Third phase is you have the database, you have the backend. How do you make it easy for people to actually use? Because an Excel document is great and all, but not ideal. So we've been looking at other dictionaries, Ojibwe, Blackfoot, Plains Creek. How do they do it? How are they dealing with these design challenges that are unique to Munsee and Algonquian languages that Hawaiian or some other English doesn't have to deal with? So we want it to be very much informed by other efforts that are designed to make it available to users. Maybe you can talk about the website.
Yeah, so this probably this was working. Okay, so this is just an example of a page. We wanted, so I can't click anything, but if I could, you can click, there's the etymology, so the breakdown of the word. You can use that to kind of circle around to the other words that use those root words. And so that you can then connect, this red to other words that are about red. We also want to create a categorization. So it'll be like, here's a list of all the words that are to do with this category. Here's a list of all the words that are to do with this category, so that, if you want to create resources and be like, give me all the words about colors, then that will all be categorized, and will be, maybe this will make resources easier to create. And then like the most important part would be to then have speaking examples for everything, and sentence examples and speaking examples. So that's probably, that's further down the line, and probably that's kind of the icing on the top of everything, but it's also the most important part because it's the sweetest. And so we want to have community have language, and like that is an enormous project that we will have to undertake, but I think it's the most important because it connects the language to the speaking, which is what the language is supposed to be used for. And then so we have and then at the bottom, which is probably like should be hidden for the first time users, because it's kind of like blows your mind of like it's like basically all the inflected forms of like how you say this word, and right now it's like a way to organize it would be better so that it's not using linguistic terms, and then and another thing is like it would also be nice, because this is like the website itself is it's kind of just a view. So we have data over here that runs it, and then this is just the view. But it would be like, so right now everything's in English. It would be nice, you could click a button and then everything's in Lunaape. And so being able to serve the same data to people with different views, different ways to see the data. So like if you're a linguist, you can view with all the linguistic terminology. If you're someone that is learning and that like you don't have a PhD, and so that stuff makes no sense, and it's just a barrier, like that can be hidden. So yeah, that's like, those are goals that we want to have with this dictionary. And so like the Plains Creek Dictionary, they kind of they do some of that. And so like these are things that we're learning from other projects that we can use.
Our fundamental goal is to create something for people, right? So that informs a lot of the deciding choices that we've made so far. We can talk about that in detail if you're interested, but we want to create something that people who are interested in the language want to speak it, or people who know the language and want to utilize it further can do. So whenever it's a choice that is for the average person or for the linguist, we want to choose for the average person. Although, as Jamie said, there is an option in the Plains Creek Dictionary, and it's something that we could look forward to when actually developing the website, to toggle between the two. So phase 4 is the future. So what we want to do, the main difference between an online and a print dictionary is that the print dictionary has an order. That constrains a lot of the choices that you have to make, especially with a language like this. And a print dictionary is more dead in certain ways. You can sure have more editions, version 1, version 2, version 3, but it's dead in a way that an online dictionary isn't. And an online dictionary, in many ways, is necessary for living language, instead of just documenting some anatomical model is something that is an organism that's growing. So that's one thing. And the second thing is, how do we future-proof this project so that it's beyond either of our hands? So one thing that we're talking about is, obviously we don't want like a commercial paywall. We don't want it to be locked behind any barrier of entry such as that. And we wanted to outlast. So we were talking about how you make that happen. One thing that we made, this is, a jury rig thing. This is not the final by any means, but we have a little just document that we're working out of and saying, okay, here's how we do this, here's how we do this, here's some papers, here's dictionary and subjects relevant to the dictionary. And if we have a central hub, like a Google Drive, and then maybe we can transfer it to a more durable source than a Google Drive. But if we have a central hub, then that makes everything easier to work at. Oh, that's just an option that you could toggle. But I don't think we have much time, so I will just quickly say that this is the document that we're working on in order to like deal with all of the like, how do you parse a verb, how do you parse a noun, and this, if we had more time, I would show you. But if you have something like this, it'll say, oh, this word, I recognize this word, or actually it doesn't recognize it, but I can figure out this word. This is amimans plus dash. So if you want to know, why is this word like this? What is the breakdown of it? This computer program will help with that. And obviously, before that goes to the final user, we want people to actually confirm it and check. This is just something to speed up the process, not the process itself. So that's something that we're working on. And then this is the dictionary as it currently is. So we have notation and formats, but it's something that like, if you spend 10 minutes with it, you can sort of like figure out. But this is going to be the back end. And then once we create the website, we can actually have a front end. But yeah, what we need from you now, let me know your thoughts as well, is first of all, your thoughts as a group, and especially the language keepers. And then what we need after that is, if we're going ahead with this, who is going to fill out the entries? And, so I have, I was actually working on this last night. Depending on how Professor Beckwith is comfortable with, I have a program that will go from those documents to the CSV file with some, like tweaking and this and that. But I have a way to automate that process and then have a person come in and make sure everything's okay. But with the Omera dictionary, that's print. There's some OCR things you could do. You can finagle it, figure it out. But that will be longer. But that is the main bottleneck right now. Yeah, we wanted to hear your questions and thoughts. I know we're running low on time.
There would be like a document, wouldn't there be like a file that was created from?
There would be, but we're not, that's something that we have to talk with Professor O'Meara about if he's comfortable. Because talk with Anu, I don't think the issue is with a copyright, although we need to still figure that out as well. That's not going to be the main issue. It's just like comfort and that sort of thing.
Got it.